we need to talk about. We're up to on Quantum Leap. Is it episode 4?
Episode 4. Episode 4.
Oh, okay, Alan. You know what?
Okay.
All I can say is this. I feel partially responsible for this review because what I did is I made a deal with you that I'd go see Bros if you reviewed Quantum Leap.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, I'm definitely getting the better end of the deal because, quite frankly, the last 2 episodes were good. You know, I would say it's a solid television episode, and it did what I was complaining about in the first 2 episodes, and that was focused more about the Ben Addison relationship and that story of him leaping into somebody, and then really put the behind the scenes stuff in the background. And they for the second week in a row they did that. There's a little bit of the behind the scenes. You understand, they revealed why Ernie Hudson's character restarted the Quantum Leap project. Ben has now realized that Addison was his girlfriend, and now there's more mystery as to where Ben is going, because it's been revealed now that he's on a trajectory somewhere. And by reading the comments of my last reviews of Quantum Leap, you know, it feels like he's moving to find Sam, which was definitely the motivation that Ernie Hudson's character was going on. So the thing I want to talk about is what makes a good reboot and what makes a good sequel. And I always say it, you have to take what you love about the original, bring it into the sequel, the reboot, and then build upon it. And I think, you know, this show suffered from where She-Hulk suffered. And that was, they never should have started with the behind the scenes. What they should have done was start with what is the 3rd and 4th episode now, and just bring us back to that feeling of what Quantum Leap was Sam jumping into a body, Ben jumping into a body, and then trying to figure out what went wrong and then make it right. And then you start feeding in the backstory. And I feel like that they should have just done it that way, because I think you would have held on to a greater audience from the start, rather than lose them right off the bat and then bring them now. Because right now I'm okay with a little more of the backstory, you know, just kind of spoon feed it at this point. But I will tell you where the problem with Quantum Leap is now, and it's basically bland characters. Ben and Addison, you know, it has nothing to do with the actors who are doing it, but their characters are written very bland. Ben is the guy who was in charge of the project. Addison was his girlfriend, who has kind of, I think she has military training or military background. And that's really all we know. And if you compare Ben and Addison to Sam and Al, you know, Scott Bakula was kind of a known actor. You know, I think, if I could be wrong, but I think this was his really first big leading role. And then Dean Stockwell had been a character actor for a long time. And so there's a familiarity that we had with those 2 characters, and there was this dynamic that played out throughout the entire series. You know, Sam was just trying to figure out what was going on, deal with the Swiss cheese going on in his head, and then right what went wrong. And then Al is there. He's not sure how this works. He's got a faulty handheld device that he's constantly hitting, and so there's character development there. There's quirkiness. There's ideas. And here, you know, Ben is just a guy who's the leader. He's a strong leader. How do we know that? Because people told us he was. You know, there's the constant, oh, well, if Ben were here, he would have done this. You know, we're being told what a great guy Ben is, rather than showing us what a great guy Ben is. But I will say, at this point in time, Quantum Leap is, I would call it a solid B show now that we're 4 episodes in, compared to where we were at the first 2 episodes. It just got picked up for, I believe, the balance of the season. So, you know, NBC is pretty happy with it. As long as they kind of stick with the stories that they're telling. You know, this time Ben leapt into a female bounty hunter. And the stories really, you know, what they're doing now is they're kind of taking the stories that Ben leaps into, this idea of a woman who is unsure about marrying her best friend, who's the other bounty hunter. And they're kind of bringing that love story now by bringing it into Ben and Addison, where he realizes that they were once lovers, and then taking it outside into the lab, and then showing similar stories. So they're at least theming things well. So you know, I think they're on track. There's potential to be better, or potential for it to be better than it is, and so we'll see. Because as we've learned with Hollywood, they're going to screw it up at some point, and we're just waiting for that moment. But so far, so good with Quantum Leap.
Not one thing you said got me excited about Quantum Leap.
I mean, how excited were you about the original?
I like the original. It was fun. It was just sort of, it was a very simple concept, and they focused on that concept. And everything that you've told me, the side characters aren't interesting. It doesn't, the leaping should be the best part of it. It's not, nothing you said is
there. It's getting there. I mean, I wouldn't say that the original Quantum Leap was Shakespeare.
Right.
There were certainly good and bad episodes, but you know, even the side characters, there, you know, there's the Asian woman who is the security specialist. Well, she acts tough, and that's basically the sum of her character. Then they have the non-binary character, who, you know, is the smart guy, the programmer. But you know, that's all there is to that character, other than how he looks and how he dresses, or how they look and how they dress. And so the only real good character in here right now is Ernie Hudson, because he gives a speech in this episode about, you know, how he knows his personal connection with Sam Beckett, because he leapt into him in a previous in the original series. But only Ernie Hudson can pull off that speech without it sounding sappy.
Again, you're giving it a B. You're being way too nice.
I'm being generous.
You're being generous. You're first of all, I admire your loyalty to this show, but you initially didn't like it, and now you're warming up to it. Are they wearing you down?
That's the thing. This is why it's so hard to review episodics, because, you know, with She-Hulk, you know, we liked the potential that it had, and it failed. In this one, I hated the setup, and it's starting to at least try to become what the original series was, with this added addition of the backstory, of the behind the scenes.